Hi there folks, welcome to Homebrew Wednesday. It's me, Graham, once again, and this week, it finally happened, we're going to be doing beer. So we're going to try out just making one of these before moving on to more complicated things. I ordered this online, and I ordered a Cooper's Irish Stout along with it, which I'm going to be adding a whole lot of adjuncts and little bits and bobs to make it quite interesting. Now this is obviously, so this is your standard sort of kit. It comes with yeast, a little fold-out instruction set, and wonderful instructions such as these, for proper prize fools like myself. And to do this, you also require sugar. I got myself a nice big bag of brewing sugar for that. Now you can use, there's various things you can use for that. You don't have to just use brewing sugar. You get lots of varieties. There are different ones that cost varying amounts of money. You can substitute different types of sugar yourself. If you really wanted, you could chuck a whole lot of honey in, but as we've seen from previous videos about mead, honey takes rather a long time to ferment. But other than those considerations, we're pretty much ready to go. I've got my brew bin here. It's just been sterilised. I've sterilised the lid as well currently. I've got a large sauce pot sitting there, newly bought. I only need to have one, about an 8 litre one for this, because when you're brewing from these kits rather than brewing a partial extract or a full mash, then you really only need a small pot, because you're not actually really boiling anything. You're just using it as a container, keep it warm, and then adding things to it, obviously with the heat off so it doesn't burn. But yeah, so I think we should just get cracked on with this. Well, I've got 3 litres of water just heating up on the stove here. I'm going to bring it to the boil. Obviously you're not actually going to boil anything at this point. I'm not going to boil any of the ingredients. But doing this helps, even though I've already sanitised this this stock pot, it helps also just to make sure that the liquid inside is sanitised as well. Obviously, when we put things into the fermentation bin, we're going to be topping it up with water from the tap anyway. So you might ask, what's the point? But better safe than sorry at every stage. Now it's just heating up here. I started by putting in just about 1.5 litres of cold water and 1.5 litres of boiling water, just to take a little less time. You might ask why I'm using 3 litres, where on the instructions in the packet it actually says 2. Now the reason I'm using 3 is because this is Scotland and it gets cold. So the easiest way for me to make sure that I actually get to the sensible temperature, which is the ideal temperature, is about 23-25 degrees Celsius. Once I've put cold water in, if I use 2 litres of cold water in what is effectively a 20-odd litre container, it's just going to get freezing cold, because the water that comes out the tap here is icy cold. I've had my Cooper's tin sitting in hot water, and you can tell it's usually the right temperature if it's so hot that the label starts to come off. That's generally a good indication if it's been in there long enough. Now, as it says in this point, open the other end, you kind of hear inside here it's still a little bit sloshing around. Our water's almost boiling. I've also put aside 500 grams of dextrose. That's the brewing sugar that we're going to be using, and you can see it's got a consistency more similar to caster sugar than granulated sugar. As I said before, there's various reasons. You don't have to use this. You could use various other things. When I make my stout, I'll probably actually use a few different things than that. Some brown sugar, maybe some molasses if I can get hold of it, just to give it a slightly different kind of taste, a sort of richness that you wouldn't otherwise get. We're just about at the point of boiling, so at this stage it might be a good idea to start opening our can. Now, I sanitise this because why risk the blade of this going inside there and making everything unsanitary? Oh, that smell. When I was a little boy, my mother used to give me, my brother and and my sister a spoonful of malt once a week. I don't think I ever thanked her. I certainly should have. Kept me healthy, and I think it did. Right, so that's there. Turn it off. I'll just move it off the heat. Just so we don't want anything burning and sticking to the bottom. Which is also why I have a spoon, which I have also sterilised. Now, I'll just pour that in. Oh, yep. The hot water has done its job. There's quite a lot still in there. So, give it a good healthy stir, because the last thing I want is for it to stick and burn. That is not what we want at all. It smells delicious. It smells truly, honestly, absolutely delicious, this. I feel like Willy Wonka. Okay. Stir that until you can make sure that there's nothing at the bottom, no solids, or indeed no thick treacly like matter left. And it should dissolve quite quickly. That's not a great problem. But right, I think that's enough. Now it's time to add the sugar. There we go. Doesn't taste much different from normal sugar. It's almost candied sugar. Now here we have the brewing vessel. Now what I've put is I've already filled up a small amount of water into the bottom of the fermentation bin, and I've put it on a table so that you can actually see what I'm doing, because otherwise it was going to be off the bottom of the screen. And what I'm going to do now is, because I've put it a little cold in, I'm now going to put the hot water from here in. And somewhere down the line, we're going to end up with an equilibrium of some kind. So, first step. Now at this point, safety. Anytime you're using boiling liquids, especially boiling liquids flooded with sugar, be careful. There's no reason to take any risks with any of this stuff. So, cloth, 2 hands, always pour away from yourself. But make sure you're not pouring so much so that you actually upset the brewing tin. Excuse me, the fermentation bucket. So you don't want to knock it over. Now there's enough liquid in, it should be okay. At this stage, the temperature gauge is still way off the chart, so the water is still very, very hot. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this as a vessel now, because that will help make sure I pick up every last bit from the inside. And fill it up to. Now, from here, this is where we want to hit the 20 litre mark. Now at this point, our still very much slightly warm must, which is sitting at about 30 degrees, is still at the bottom. We're only about 2 gallons in. We still need another 2 gallons and a little bit more. Now, this is why, as I said, I'm probably going to have to top up this with some hot water towards the end, just to make sure this doesn't end up freezing cold. So let's get to it. Now, move the camera. You can now see we're just over just over 3.5 gallons. Obviously, that's where we're trying to get, and the temperature is now down at 22 degrees. This is exactly what I said earlier, I think. So, future reference there, probably about 4 litres of hot water is probably what you want. So what I'll do next is I'll boil a kettle full of water and probably make up the next 4 litres with a mixture of boiling or cold. Well, there you have it. We're just over 20 litres and a little change, just to make sure that we've got enough. That's obviously because of, you might have a little spillage when you're bottling it. you're going to have to take hydrometer readings, and just in the event that if there's any other problems, you just want to have that little bit extra. Some people say you should do 22 litres, but to be honest, you do it that slightly little bit less, and you're getting that bit more concentrated flavour. Now, as you can see, this has taken me maybe in total. Yeah, that's plenty. That's for the hydrometer. This has only taken me a few minutes to throw all this together. If I wasn't filming this for the camera, I probably could have done this in maybe 5 to 10 minutes maximum. So it really shows you that the actual, especially when using a kit, the actual process of doing it is very simple. And it only takes 10 minutes to do one of these. There's no reason why you shouldn't try it. If you're interested in this, try it one day. Pick up one of these, self-made kits. Just throw it together, try it out, follow the instructions, follow one of these videos, follow one of the many videos on this. I mean, I'm certainly not alone here in the homebrew community. Make sure that you follow the instructions of somebody who knows a bit more about it, and then within no time you'll be doing it yourself. Now, checking the temperature, we're sitting at a very respectable 24 degrees, which means it's a perfectly good time to pitch the yeast and just get this done. Now, here's our brewing yeast, and there we go. And oh, it smells interesting. It smells different from normal yeast. Now, what we do is lightly sprinkle it all over the whole thing. Taking particular care to make sure that it goes on the liquid and not onto the side of the bottle where it will get stuck. Now we take the lid, our lid, which has a little grommet on it with a hole in either side, as opposed to the other one it has, which is closed for when you. Lovely. It has another grommet for when you want to store it, which keeps the air out. Now, this needs to be pushed down properly. So the good thing is, with a hole in the middle. It's not like Tupperware. It doesn't have the burp on. Now, we take our airlock. You've seen these many times. And this just goes in gently, because the last thing I want to do is push the grommet through the hole, if that's even possible. So there we go. And there we have it. Beer. Now I'm just going to pop this through into a nice little corner where I'm going to keep it. One thing I am going to do is put down a towel first. Two reasons for this. First off, as I said, it's very cold in Scotland. So we want to have a towel down on the bottom of it to help insulate it, even though it's sitting on a wooden surface, just to keep that little bit of cold from seeping in and the heat dropping out through the bottom of it. The other thing it does, obviously, is in the event of it spraying a leak, it'll help a little. Obviously that would be a disaster, and better not happen because this is new, so hopefully that won't be the case. I may also end up putting some other towels around it just to try and keep it at the same temperature, because I don't really want to keep the entire house at 20 odd degrees, and for the amount of necessity it is, I don't really see any point in going out and buying one of these brew belts at this point in time. They cost about £20, and for all the effort it is, I mean, it's not like being a little bit cold is going to do a huge amount of damage to the beer. All it's going to do is really slow it down. But hopefully, if I insulate it a wee bit, that won't be an issue, and it'll actually keep up with this temperature. I'll just have to remember to, while the heating up, maybe a little now and again, more than I would usually. Until then, it's going to go away through there, and in about 3 weeks, or thereabouts, hopefully, we should have some beer and I can try it. Well, I've packed away the beer. It's where it's going to stay, and I have the stuff I took at the top, and my tube, and my hydrometer. Now, obviously, this is all just going in the bin, so it doesn't matter about sterilising it. You could if you really wanted to. There isn't really any point at this point, because none of this is getting in contact with the actual brew. So what I'm going to do is pour a little in. What we end up with. Have a look. sitting just below the 30. It's about 1.034, which is good. Perfectly good starting gravity for a beer. So again, this is the English bitter, which I'm very fond of an English bitter. And in fact, to counteract the fact I'm having English bitter, I'm literally just about to crack into a beer myself. I'm going to have a Threppeldizer, which is quite a nice Scottish beer. It's a red beer. So beer related. So yeah, that's been a very, very simple, very quick and dirty, well not dirty, very sanitized, but very quick and simple kit brew. So that's how quick it is, that's how fast it is, that's how easy it is, that's how simple it is. Even I can do it, so you can definitely do it. Other than that, there's not a lot to say at the moment. I'm still waiting on the Irish Stout, which unfortunately I got a little note tucked into the packaging saying that unfortunately, I may have mentioned this earlier, unfortunately that it wasn't included because it had a bump and the packaging was damaged. So they're going to send me a replacement. So that'll probably come the next day or two, which is fine because I'm not going to make that. Certainly not for the rest of the month. But other than that, no, that's pretty much me for this week. That'll be an interesting thing. I'm probably going to be losing the beard very shortly. So you may have to say goodbye to it. You never know, I may end up making a video. But let's just hope that even without the beard, I can still produce good homebrew. So not like Samson of the homebrew. That sounded terrible. Anyway, thanks for that. Happy Homebrew Wednesday. Y'all take care. Thanks.